Good evening, educators. Shyla Webb here, education consultant with Emily Hemmingson. She is our guest speaker for tonight. She is the founder of the Whole Adventure Health Coaching for Teachers, and she's a certified health coach through the Institute of Integrative Nutrition. Emily is a teacher turned certified health coach who is dedicated her career to helping teachers prevent and heal from symptoms of burnout. Exactly what we've been talking about recently in this group, and that's happening among us educators all over the world today. She founded her business, The Whole Adventure, to empower teachers with the tools and resources that they need to tend to their physical and mental well-being during this school year. She is looking forward to sharing some of her favorite tips with you on setting boundaries in education. So thank you so much, Emily, for taking your time and being here tonight. And I'm excited to hear what you have to share with us.
Thanks, Shyla, and thanks for such an awesome introduction. Hello to everybody, and thank you for taking the time to listen to this video and to get some tips on building boundaries during the school year. So we're going to go ahead and just jump right in and get started. I'm going to share my screen. I've got a presentation for you all.
You know, while she's pulling up that screen, if you're here with us, be sure to say hi or like the video if you've seen it. If you're watching the replay, let us know that you're watching the replay so that we know that you're tuning in. Any times that you have questions or comments, feel free to put them in the feed. And if we don't get to them tonight, we will go back and make sure that we answer any questions or comments that you have.
Yeah, great. Awesome. So just to make sure we're all in the right place, this is setting school year boundaries. It's just a really quick presentation I want to run through you guys with to give you some ideas with how you can start to set boundaries this school year. So again, just really quick tips at the end of this. I want you to have a really actionable goal for setting one boundary you can make this school year to feel less stressed out, less overwhelmed, and just feel more empowered with this year. So I wanted to start, I love kind of infusing these presentations with little quotes. So you are in the driver's seat of your life. This is something that I was told a really long time ago, and I think it's something I share with my clients and something I really want. I think it's just a good reminder to have at a time when you are likely being pulled in so many different directions and being asked of so many different things from so many different people. Just that reminder that you get to decide what you say yes to, what you say no to, and how you are spending the time in your life. So just a reminder of that. I also wanted to start out to this presentation talking about why boundaries can be so challenging, because they're not all that easy. It's easier said than done, a lot of these things. So again, this is I want to keep this presentation kind of quick and snappy, but something that you can think about, or if you're watching this after the presentation tonight, you could even pause after this video and think about, what is your relationship with boundaries and what beliefs do you hold about saying no or creating boundaries in your life? A lot of the time when I'm talking to teachers in my community or clients that I work with, there might be a fear of letting people down, or of disappointing people, a fear of maybe seeming mean by saying no to someone, or maybe seeming selfish that you're choosing to take time for yourself as opposed to serving somebody else. And then also you can remember that saying no is a skill. So if setting boundaries feels really uncomfortable for you at this time, it might just be a lack of practice. So starting really, really small with something almost seemingly unimportant might be a good practice for you, saying no to just as a small example, like saying no to a phone call when you would rather rest for that time, or something like that. Something really small to start out with, just to start practicing that muscle. And then again, if setting boundaries is something that is really stressful or overwhelming or uncomfortable for you, I always like to remind my clients and my community of the garden metaphor. So imagine, if you will, a garden, and you want people to come in and enjoy it, but there's no gate There's no fence, there's no walkway. And so when people come in to enjoy the garden, they stomp on the flowers, they're picking flowers because they want to take them home. And eventually there's no garden for anybody to enjoy and it's ruined. And then imagine instead a garden that has the fence, has the walkways, and people can come in and they know what the rules are for the garden. They know that there's fences that they can't cross, there's walkways they should stay on, and the garden stays beautiful for years to come. So obviously the second example would be one where you're setting boundaries. You're limiting people and what they can do and how they can use the space, and that keeps it beautiful. So for yourself, what are the things that you need to set? What are those fences that you need to build in your life in order to stay happy and healthy for the whole school year instead of just living in survival mode through this whole school year? Another metaphor that really works well for teachers is you set boundaries and expectations every single day in your classroom in order to keep your students safe and to keep everything running smoothly in your classroom. How can you carry those skills that you're using in your classroom into your daily life by setting boundaries in your daily life? Signs you may need to establish a boundary are things like your mental and physical health are being negatively impacted by your current schedule. You're noticing that you're consistently triggered by certain days or upset by certain things, or something is stressing you out consistently. That might be a sign you need some sort of boundary around that thing. And you know that your current schedule or lifestyle is not sustainable right now. So thinking long term with what's going on right now and how your schedule is right now, can you carry that on for the full year? Can you carry it on for years to come? If the answer is no, then what kind of boundaries do you need to set so that this could be sustainable for you? Or you are anxiously awaiting or living for your next school break. That's a big sign that you might need to set boundaries during the actual school year. So when setting school year boundaries, the first step is to start to pinpoint some of those triggers for stress, so that you can start to problem solve and figure out what those boundaries are that you can build in. A lot of the time we'll come home from a long school day and just be exhausted and stressed out and just sort of want to throw in the towel and veg out and whatever and not think about it. You might not even know specifically what stressed you out during the day, but it can be very, very powerful to actually start to pinpoint those things that are stressing you out during the day. So some of those stressors, and then in turn boundaries, areas for stressors and then areas for boundaries we're going to talk about here just quickly that you can consider are physical stressors and then physical boundaries that you can build to help with that. Emotional stressors and then boundaries, time, personal, and then environmental. In the next couple of slides, I'm going to present to you some examples that I've heard within my coaching with teachers. So these are just examples. They're not to say you have to set every single one of these boundaries, but it's just things to get you brainstorming. If you are reading one of these and you say, yeah, that's something that really does stress me out during the school year, maybe I should build a boundary around that, then you totally can. But again, these are just things to get you thinking and brainstorming. So physical boundaries can look like sitting down when you are tired. So if a really big stressor for you is you feel like your feet are dead at the end of the day and you're just really physically tired, when can you sit down during the day and give yourself that break? Taking screen breaks to stretch when your eyes or body are tired. This is very specific to virtual teaching that a lot of teachers are doing right now, or even if you do a lot of planning on your laptop, taking those screen breaks when you notice the fatigue in your eyes and body. Fatigue from sitting down too much is kind of the opposite of the first one. Eat when you are hungry. So I talk to a lot of teachers through health coaching who might not feel like they don't have time right now during the day to eat. So figuring out ways that you can actually eat during the day when you're hungry, if you're noticing that that's having a long-term negative impact on your health. Ask for coverage when you need to use the bathroom. I could talk about this one a lot because I think it's just a right that everyone should have to use the bathroom when they need to. And there's a lot of joking that happens among the teacher community that, oh, I can't pee when I want to during the day and things like that. But I think, again, this is something that if it is something that's a stressor to you, it's in your power to ask for coverage for that. Asking people not to go into your classroom if you are not there first can be a physical as well as an environmental boundary. If that's something that stresses you out, then that's a boundary that you can set. Emotional boundaries. So can look like, again, as some examples, only sharing your emotions on the condition that the other person will be respectful of them. Asking someone to listen to how you are feeling when emotions are high, asking someone to choose another time to talk to you about their emotions, or asking someone to speak to someone else about their emotions. So those are just some examples of what emotional boundaries can look like. Time boundaries can be very, very powerful for teachers, especially right now with the switch, if you're doing virtual learning or even just in general, even outside of this pandemic year. Time boundaries can look like knowing when you're working and when you're not. So setting really kind of cutoff times for when you want to be done with work for the day. Setting aside specific days and hours when you are resting. So if you don't like the time with cutoff times for work, then you can choose a certain amount of hours per day that you are not at all going to be focused on work and just kind of have a little time and bubble for other important parts of your life. Ask for clear deadlines with a reasonable buffer time. So a big stressor among teachers is these unexpected deadlines, and sometimes they're very big deadlines that come out of nowhere. Asking for a longer amount of time for a deadline, or asking for an extension if something's feeling really, really overwhelming. And that's the last one, ask for more time when you start to feel overwhelmed. Personal boundaries can look like having a separate phone number and email for work. A lot of teachers give out their personal phone numbers to families, and it can be really helpful to have something like a Google Voice number or something like that, just to have a little bit more separation. Saying no to personal student events outside of school hours, and turning off email and work text chain notifications on the weekends are some things that can look like that can be personal boundaries. And then environmental boundaries. And this one is a big one right now, especially if you are doing virtual teaching. So leave work at work is one for if you're going into the school building. Having a separated workspace from your living space can be very, very helpful for compartmentalizing when you are resting and when you are working. So a lot of people are expressing, who are doing virtual teaching, are expressing having a really hard time concentrating during the day or staying motivated during the day. And that's a really, really big tip that I would offer, is trying to separate as much as you can your environment for where you are working. So having a designated spot for work that, to the best of your ability, is separate from places where you regularly rest, because our brains are so influenced by our environment. A lot of the time we will be unconsciously influenced by, oh, this is usually the place where I chill and I watch Netflix or I just read and whatever. And now this is where I'm supposed to do my work. And it has a hard time kind of switching, if that makes sense. So having separate spaces for your work and rest is going to make it easier for your brain to stay focused in the place that you are working and actually rest, and kind of turn off from the school thoughts when you are resting. Yeah, so that's environmental boundaries. So those, again, running through are some examples just to get you brainstorming. It could have even been before those examples, you were thinking of certain stressors during your school day, like, yep, that is a big stressor for me. And that's something that I want to create a boundary around. But I would love it if for after this video, you would take some time to think about one boundary you would like to set for your self-care this school year. If you feel really empowered, you can choose more than one, but I wouldn't recommend more than 3, because when we're setting boundaries, it's essentially like setting a habit. So we want to stay really focused on those boundaries and make sure that we are tending to them and making sure that they are sticking as a boundary for the long term. And it's easier to do that if we're just focused on a couple. Yeah, if you feel super good about your boundary, you can share what it is in the comments of this video, if that's cool with Shyla. I think it would be really inspiring just to see what you're thinking of as a boundary for the school year, and it can help inspire other teachers as well.
I think sharing the boundaries is a great idea.
Great, cool.
Yeah.
So I want to thank Shyla again for allowing me to come on here and speak. I wanted to keep it quick and snappy, and I think I might have spoken a little bit fast because of that, but I hope that you guys found these tips helpful. If you're interested in seeing more from me, I run a free Beat Burnout Facebook group with self-care tips. The goal of the group is to just give you a little oasis, a place for teachers to bring the focus back to their self-care goals. So it's just facebook.com/groups/teachers beat burnout. And then if you also are interested, I have a free copy of what I call the Healthy Teacher Self-Care Planner. Again, this is a simple, structured way that you can bring the focus back to your mental and physical well-being during this challenging school year. I think a lot of the time, once the school year gets off and running, it can be easy to forget about our own needs. And so my hope with this planner is just to kind of bring a scaffolded way for you to think about you and your precious body and mind and what you need during this time. And then, because I love quotes, I'm sending you guys off with one more. So love yourself enough to set boundaries. Your time and energy are precious. You get to choose how you use it. You teach people how to treat you by deciding what you will and won't accept. And that is from Anna Taylor.
Very nice. Thank you so much, Emily, for coming on here and speaking and sharing your wisdom.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I had a really great time.
It was really nice to have you on here. And I think that you just bringing out the different aspects of boundaries. It's not always in one place, right? We do need to have physical boundaries, and I even say energy boundaries. We have to decide how much energy are we going to put into a project, whether it's something that we're learning new, right, or a student that is really challenging us, and how many, when are we going to stop and pull back? I love the analogy of the garden and not having the gate up and how people are just going to walk on our flowers, or I even think of some of the community gardens that aren't necessarily protected and how people just come and pick and destroy. And it's unfortunate, but that will happen. So thank you so much for bringing up those examples and just sharing with us tonight. And the self-care planner looks fantastic. So again, thanks for sharing that free resource. If you are part of this group and you're new to this group, just so you know, we typically come on and try and share usually a half hour or less, but I really aim for 20 minutes or less. So Emily fell right into that. We know that you're all busy. You're taking time away from your family to be here with us and to help your own well-being. So really appreciate you doing that and putting yourself first. For November, November is the National Month of Gratitude. And so I will be sharing out a free fillable gratitude journal on November 1st. And then we will actually do a weekly dose of gratitude rather than the mini series. So I'll be announcing the day that we will come on live and do that as well. If you have any questions or comments about this little video today, and to reach Emily, she shared her group, feel free to reach out to her or put them in the questions and comments, and she's part of this group as well. And so she'll be available to answer that. And you can, as always, you can reach out to me too. I hope you all have a great evening. Thank you so much for being here with us, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Good night.
Thanks. Good night.
It'll be just 1 second.